Hey guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I've been living in Japan for about 2 years now and it has been a really great experience. Something that I've never mentioned on the channel before is that I'm actually working here as an English teacher. And I don't work for a traditional school, like at a high school or junior high school. I am working for an eikaiwa, which is more a conversational school. So the classes are for kids and adults, like all ages. And for the kids classes, they usually in groups and much smaller than like a regular classroom. So where I work, the maximum number of kids is 8, which I think for most people is pretty good. If they just find teaching in a regular classroom too stressful or too big to manage. So there's definitely pros and cons to working in this kind of environment versus a regular school. And today I just want to talk about why I don't recommend teaching in Japan at all. This isn't gonna be a super negative video. I just want to focus on a lot of points that I wish I had known before coming to Japan and what I would have done differently. Or I think for most people English jobs are the easiest way to get sponsored to come and work in Japan. I think getting a visa in Japan recently has become more difficult, and Japan recently is trying to limit the number of foreigners that live in Japan. I think in the future getting a visa is going to become even more complicated and more expensive for a lot of people. The visa that a lot of people get when they do teach English in Japan is an engineering or specialist in humanities and international services visa. So this visa allows you to do a lot more work than just teaching, and there's obviously limits, but it doesn't limit you to only teaching English, which I think is very attractive for a lot of people who come to Japan for teaching English and then they look for a new job. Because a lot of jobs in Japan, they don't sponsor the initial visa. You already have to live in Japan and then go through the interview process in Japan. So that's kind of the easiest way, and that's what a lot of people do. I want to focus today on just kind of my experience and obviously the people that I work with or people that have had similar experiences to me that work in this kind of eikaiwa English teaching job. Because from what I've seen and heard, there is the JET program in Japan, which is kind of the government English teaching assisted program, and the salary of that is much better and the conditions and everything, but it takes a lot longer. The documentation is intense. You have to do a lot of things to get that job, and also if you're not sure you actually even want to be teaching children and working in a big school, I think going through the eikaiwa route is much easier and also much less work intensive. But the first thing I do want to discuss is the salary. I think this is obviously an important thing for people when starting a new job, but I think at the eikaiwa that I work, my salary is dependent on the number of lessons that I have. Each lesson is about 40 minutes with a 10-minute interval between lessons. So I have about 8 lessons a day. The salary on paper doesn't seem too bad. I mean, I definitely think I can get by, I can cover all my bills, I can get everything paid and done living in Japan under my salary. However, Japan also has a lot of holidays, and if you don't work, you don't get paid. You have to get smart with your money, and then you also have to you need to like budget and plan for like months like when you're not going to be earning as much money. And I think you can definitely get by on this for the first year. So when you're living in Japan, you're probably already paying for rent, utilities, pension, medical, income taxes, all of that. But after your first year of working in Japan, you will get a residency tax, which based on which prefecture you live in Japan, you will have to pay a certain percentage of your annual income for basically living in Japan. So if you're thinking about like moving, or you've lived in Japan for 1 year and you've worked like really hard throughout the year, and you're thinking about taking a trip or doing something, then you're hit with this massive bill that you need to pay. Like, you really get stuck in this loop of like feeling like you always have to save and you always are paying for something. And I think for a lot of people, like coming to Japan and, you know, doing this kind of work is for enjoyment. Like, people want to like travel, like live in Japan. I don't think a lot of people have this expectation to just come to Japan and like work to live. You actually want to enjoy your experience in Japan and like get the most out of your experience. If I was thinking about moving into a different place, there's also a huge amount of money that I would have to save in order to like move out of my place. And that leads me to the second point, which is housing. So I'm gonna focus specifically on like Tokyo and like surrounding neighborhoods because that's what I'm familiar with. But so I am currently staying in my company's apartment, which was super convenient at the time before I came to Japan. And it's the reason why I chose my current companies, because all the costs and trying to figure out apartments was already taken care of before I came to Japan. So every month I work, just a portion of my salary is taken for paying rent to my company. Living in my company's apartment is definitely a double-edged sword for me, because I feel like if I wanted to find a different job, I would definitely have to like leave my apartment, which obviously makes sense, but I've got myself kind of stuck in this situation because I would have to save so much money to move into another apartment. One of the problems that Japan is experiencing and has been for a long time is a lot of companies don't want to rent their apartments to foreigners. And one of the main reasons for this is because in Japan, normally contracts for apartments are about 2 years. And because of all of the things that I had mentioned, a lot of people come to Japan with different expectations and they end up leaving after a year or even less. So a lot of people have canceled their contracts in the past. Obviously, the people who are renting those apartments out had the back end of this situation. So a lot of companies don't want to deal with foreigners, and they also don't want to deal in English or any other language. So if you don't understand Japanese, this can be very complicated. And just in general, there are a lot of costs that you might not realize you would need to pay before you move into a place. There are a lot of costs you need to consider. You would need to pay first month's rent, a security deposit, key money, an agency fee. You would need to pay to change the locks. You need to pay fire insurance, and you would need to pay a guarantor company that is kind of like your insurance in case you don't pay for your rent or you cancel the contract or something like that. These fees are extremely high. The guarantor fee is like 50 to 100% of your monthly rent. Key money is also basically like a gift that you are paying to the landlord for like allowing you to stay in the place. This is common across all Japan. It's not just for foreigners. Like, all of these costs are usually involved for renting a place in Japan in general. After 2 years, the renewal fee is again like 1 month. Japan also has a problem with natural disasters, so like earthquakes and typhoons. All of these issues are really problematic for a lot of older houses and older buildings in Japan. So you really would need to, like, for your own peace of mind, you would probably want to stay in a newer building, away from rivers. There's a lot of like geographical issues that you would need to consider, and that also then makes it more expensive. These costs become more and more expensive, and living in Japan then becomes unaffordable for a lot of people. Like when you're earning the teacher's salary, the Japanese yen is really weak right now. Recently, I feel like Japan has become a very popular travel destination. So people from all over the world are coming to Japan, and so the cost of hotels have become more expensive. The cost of like traveling in general in Japan has become more expensive. Dealing with inflation costs and all of these other expenses has made it even traveling in Japan more expensive for local people. If you are living in Japan, if you're coming here thinking you're going to be traveling all the time, that is not going to be very realistic for a lot of people. Next, I want to talk about the actual job in teaching. I definitely feel like you shouldn't come to Japan to teach English if you really don't like kids. I thought that I would be able to like handle like more in-person like classroom setups, especially because at like where I work, the classrooms are a lot smaller, and I don't have to deal with like big classes. But I still feel like it can be incredibly challenging to teach kids, because I think a lot of people that do these jobs are really not qualified to teach children at all. My major in university was business, and I worked in a company that was doing property development. So to come from that environment to now be working in a school and having to teach kids, I feel like it's a very different environment, especially because where I work is considered to be a business and not like a real school. Japan has this kind of mentality of treating every customer like king. So if you really are not good with kids, and even if you think like you could handle it, just be prepared that it won't be as easy as you might think, especially because you don't really know what you would get. Like my company has so many different branches across like the whole of Japan, and some branches have really good kids, but you don't really know what you will get. You just kind of have to be very flexible and adjust to that, however that might look like. And if you're not really good with that either, I really would reconsider like actually making this job as like a career option. Regardless of if you're coming to Japan or not, I feel like this might be applicable for a lot of different countries if you are considering teaching. So another thing I just want to talk about is like just my schedule, like where I work. So I work 5 days a week, and I start work at 1 in the afternoon and finish at 9 at night during the week. And I also work on weekends. So on Saturday and Sundays, I start work at 9 and finish at 5. So personally, I really do like this schedule because Tokyo is really busy on the weekends. I don't feel that I need to have like the normal weekends as like my days off, because in Tokyo, there's so many people that even going to like restaurants, you'd have to like wait in line if the place is really popular. The trains are crowded. Also during the week when I'm working from 1 to 9, I feel like I have the entire morning to myself. I like to wake up a little bit later. I go to the gym, I prepare breakfast, I have all that time to myself from 1 to 9. That's not rush hour time. So I definitely avoid crowded trains, and this is a huge benefit if you're living in Tokyo, because the trains are like literally packed like sardines. You cannot breathe, you cannot move. People are pushing, people are literally like just trying to get to their jobs, but it is really uncomfortable for most people. A lot of these English teaching companies, have a very similar schedule, because so for the kids and adults, usually the kids are at school or the adults are at work, so the schedule makes it suitable for people to come like after and during that time. So the last point that I want to talk about is there is just no career progression in this kind of work. When you are in Japan for a certain amount of time and you have continued to stay, you definitely do feel like you want to progress, especially career-wise. You definitely don't want to feel like you're wasting your time. However, I feel like in terms of AI, in terms of just advancements in technology, and in Japan, less people are traveling abroad, less people have money to go abroad, especially to study. Like the yen, like I mentioned earlier, is like so weak, so it's really expensive for a lot of students to go abroad. I think the world is just kind of a mess right now, and I think for a lot of Japanese people, the world can seem like a very scary place. Japan is really safe, the transport system is amazing, the cost of living is not that expensive compared to like other countries like Europe, America, Australia. Like I feel like after COVID-19 as well, like people are not traveling as much, the yen is weak, so everything is like really expensive for Japanese people. I think the future of this job is definitely becoming smaller and smaller, and like I said before, like even thinking about like getting a new job in Japan, a lot of the jobs do require like some level of Japanese, and learning Japanese is really, really difficult. I think if you really are committed to wanting to start a life in Japan, I definitely recommend learning Japanese before coming to Japan. This is something that I didn't do because like me coming to Japan, it wasn't something that I've been thinking about for like years. It was just something that the opportunity basically found me. I was really excited for this opportunity, and I have really fallen in love with living in Japan, and there's obviously a lot of benefits of living in Japan, but because of my schedule and because of like many other factors, learning Japanese is very, very time consuming, and getting to a level of Japanese where you can actually work in a Japanese company will take a lot of time. So either study Japanese before coming to Japan, or come to Japan, learn Japanese at a Japanese school, and those companies could help you get a better job in Japan. That would definitely be like a route I would consider if you do want to come to Japan and you don't want to teach English. But I definitely don't think that this like working teaching English is really a job that has much future. I hope you guys definitely did learn a little bit from my experience. I feel like I've shared as much as I can about like my working experience here in Japan. It definitely has been a good experience overall. I definitely think there are challenging things that you can expect when moving abroad to any country. This has just been like my experience living in Japan. Yeah, for the future, I still haven't decided like what it is I want to do, but I just want to take the time to just enjoy the rest of my time here in Japan. I don't know how long I will be here, but I don't think I don't think I'm going to continue teaching like for the next 5 years. So I think in this time, in the next year or two, I definitely just want to decide like what direction I'm going to go in the future. So if you guys have any other questions about what it's like living in Japan, please leave them down in the questions below. And if you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one.